Welcome to the Press Toward the Goal podcast. Every weekend, hundreds of thousands of people right across the world participate in the fantastic community event which is Parkrun, a free 5-kilometre timed run which attracts people of all ages, shapes and sizes. There have been more than 100,000 events completed in Australia, and no one has ever completed the course quicker than today's guest. James Hansen, welcome to the show.
Hi, Jason. Yeah, good to be on the show.
Yeah, great to have you here. And I've done my research into you, so we're going to tackle a few things in a bit, but maybe more impressive than your running ability is your remarkable life story to this point, and I'm really looking forward to getting into that as we go through, but we'll kick things off with a couple of quick-fire questions if you're happy to go.
Yeah, no, sounds good.
Good to go.
Hit me with them.
Yeah. What did you want to be when you were a kid?
When I was a kid, I wanted to be a footy player. So I was really like AFL. So
Yep.
I just loved the AFL footy and super passionate about it. So
Yeah, and which
yeah.
team? Which team?
So I went for the Brisbane Lions, and then I actually changed to the Carlton Blues. So I know a lot of listeners will think that's pretty bad, but
That is pretty
yeah.
bad.
pretty
Yeah.
dodgy, but yeah. So anyway.
Yeah, we'll see how that pans out for you.
Hasn't been a good move so far, but we'll see how we go.
What's the most used app on your phone?
Most used app on my phone, probably Instagram, I'd say.
Yep.
Yeah, that's
Very good.
that's probably the one that's got me most of the time. So
yeah, what's something that you eat or drink too much of?
eat or drink. I eat too much ice cream and I drink too much, probably Coke or Pepsi. So I've got a bit of a sweet tooth. So
yeah, they don't sound like the best things to be binging on for an athlete.
no, definitely not either. So you carry that guilt with it, but yeah, no, it keeps me happy. So I think that's important.
Yep, that's it. What's your ideal birthday celebration? It's your birthday. What would you want to do?
Oh, good question. It's actually this week, so weekend. I think just hanging out with friends, having some people around, just a chilled night where you bring people together. As you get older, as you know, you don't really see all your friends all the time, so just something that's chilled, hanging out, having a bit of fun. So that's probably
Pretty low key.
what I'd like to do. Yeah, pretty low key.
Very good. Did you have a sporting hero when you were growing up?
Ian Thorpe, actually. So yeah, like that was watched. I remember when I was like probably 7 years old, and I watched the Olympics, and that's probably going back to the footy question. The first thing I wanted to be was an Olympic swimmer, but yeah, I remember just watching him win gold at the Olympics, and just I don't know, for a kid, it was just so captivating to see someone that you can put so much trust in, I guess, to get the job done. And he used to always just seem to get over the line. So
Yeah.
yeah, for me, it was him, the Black Shark.
Yep, very good. Do you have a piece of sports memorabilia or something which you would never part with, or that you would find difficult to part with?
Probably not. No,
No.
not. I've had probably. I'm just trying to think what the best thing. I mean, I've got like a national medal and stuff like that, but to be honest, I don't. It just sits in the back of the cupboard, so there's nothing really there that's got too much meaning
Yeah, fair
for me
enough.
with that.
Very good. So you mentioned swimming there. You mentioned AFL.
Yeah.
When you were growing up, what role did sport play in your life? Both of those sports were something you participate in?
So actually, I did start with athletics. So my mum got me into little athletics when I was 7 years old, and yeah, I didn't, to be honest. I found it really hard. Like I didn't really like it much as a kid because I rocked up to, I think it was my second athletics event, and you're a 7 year old kid. And I remember, I think I won pretty much all the races on that day, but it was all of a sudden you've got this pressure. You don't do any training, you win these races, and all of a sudden it's like you've got this pressure that you've got to achieve type of thing. If you don't
Yep.
win, you're a loser. So I think that put a lot of the expectation on me quite early. So yes, interestingly, I started with athletics, and that was the main sport I did when I was younger. But there wasn't a heap of passion for it, just because of the anxiety it used to cause with races and everything like that early on.
Yeah, wow, that's
for it.
really interesting. So was that right from the start you were good, and right from the start, even at that young age, you did feel a sense of anxiety when you were competing?
Yeah, like even at school, like I remember my first cross country, like I won my first cross country at school, and it was pretty like for me, it was the big thing about it was I remember being at school and I got bullied in kindergarten quite badly. Like I ended up repeating a year because of getting bullied. And I remember I won the changed schools and I won the first cross country, and all of a sudden people are treating you a bit differently because you win a race. And for me, I guess that was a lot of pressure as a young kid when it's like almost it's like if you win, people are going to treat you differently. People are going to see you as a different person. And it's very easy for your identity to get hidden behind that. But when there's a lot of pressure and there's no training, there's nothing behind it. Yeah, that was kind of the start of it, really for me. And it was it was something I really tried to get out of running most of my
Wow.
childhood, but yeah, somehow kept going with it. So
Yeah, really interesting that you had that experience from such an early age. So you were obviously good runner. You would have been in school teams, representative teams, and competitive sort of competitions right from the young age.
yeah, that's right, Jason. So my first nationals was probably I think in maybe in grade 3 or 4 type of thing. So I just went and did a cross country in Adelaide, and you come from little old Tasmania, and you're a big fish in a small pond, and then you go over to nationals, and then you realise you're actually not that good compared to the rest of Australia. So it
How'd
was a
you
bit of
fare?
I would have been very much midfield, like yeah, nowhere to be seen type of thing. I don't know a result, but it was probably in the 40s or something if you think about
Yeah, right.
that. So yes, I wasn't like winning at a national level or anything like that from a young age, but I think it was more you're winning your club stuff, you win your state stuff, and that just created a lot of pressure
Yeah.
early on with all of that. So
Was that pressure which you said that created from being good, and was that all kind of self-driven, or was there any external factors which made you get the anxiety as well?
I think mainly self-driven. So
Yeah.
I think probably going back to my childhood and winning those races, and potentially the fact that it's like I felt like people treated me differently. I think I put that weight on my shoulders a lot more, that I need to win.
Yep.
And there's a lot of other good people out there, and as soon as that starts to change and you're not that anymore, you start to really fear that. And I think that's what it was. The big races, it was the races where it's like I don't know if I can win. They're the ones where it really created the anxiety, and I wouldn't, like there was times my mum had to drag me out of bed. This is an 8 year old,
No
because I
way.
wouldn't, yeah, because I just didn't want to get up and do it. So
Well,
yeah,
that's obviously I don't want to jump too far ahead of ourselves. We were going to have a chat through your kind of progression, but was there
yep.
something that helped you overcome that, or was it something that you really battled for a long time?
It was something I battled for a long time, and then I turned about. It was probably when I 16 or so, and I got a really good coach, and I learned I was always someone that was like extremely motivated. Like when I was probably 12 or 13, I'd have this gym workout that I'd do every day. Part of that gym workout was like, this is just an example of what I'd do, like a brace, like a brace. I'd do a 10 to 12 minute brace. At some stages I was doing 20 minutes just at the start of my workout. And then
Sorry,
I'd go,
what's a brace?
um,
Rookie over here.
like like the plank thing you do,
Oh yeah.
where you're like, yeah, so it's like, yeah, basically plank out.
Wow.
Some people call it the bridge,
Yep.
different names for it, but you just basically stand there with your shoulders going on and stand straight. So that
Wow.
was like the start of my workout, and it was like a 45-minute intense workout. And then I'd finish with 60 minutes of like 30 to 60 minutes of stretching afterwards. And I'd do this every single day. So I always had that discipline. I was doing this because I wanted to be a good footballer. Um, But yeah, when I actually started learning how to train as a runner, and that I could carry over that motivated mindset that I had and put that into actually preparing myself for the races, and being able to come into those races and I guess be prepared in a way. And it's like, if you do the training, you can actually go to the races and feel relaxed and
Yep.
you're prepared. And it's like, Whereas when I was young, it's like you're just jumping in these races. It's like you're either going to be good enough or you're not, and it's based on completely on your ability rather than the work that you put in. So yeah,
Yeah.
that learning how to train, that made a massive difference for me.
Yep. You mentioned that was around mid-teen years. When did you kind of think, hey, this might be something I can take maybe professionally or even beyond just, school level and competing when I finish school, it may be something I can pursue?
Yeah, so when I was in grade 10s, I think I was like 15 or so, I got really sick with pneumonia, and it was exactly the time the 2008 Olympics were on. And I just sat there and I watched the whole Olympic Games, and I wanted to be a footy player, but I knew I just didn't have like a gift with that, I guess you'd say. It's like I had to work really hard, and it's like I'm struggling to make, like I was making rep teams and stuff, but I wasn't at that level where I was really breaking through. But it was like with my running, it was almost like there was a gift there, because it's like I knew if if I really went hard at it, it was like I was training for footy and I was still finishing, top 10 in Australia.
Yeah.
So I watched the Olympics and I thought, this is something that could have meaning and impact with my life. And if I really dedicate myself to this gift, I think I can do something pretty special with it. So that kind of birthed within me, I think, a dream. And from there, things just kind of fell into place. Like I had a really good coach, like Kathy Freeman's coach actually moved to Tasmania, and then
Wow.
he saw a bit of ability with me, and basically he taught me how to train, and then he put a lot of belief in me, and because he'd trained a lot of good athletes, he took me from just being an average national runner to winning my first national title in under 18s at the under 18s all school. So for me, that was a big thing to go from not being able to compete at that level to all of a sudden you're right up there as one of the top juniors
Yeah.
in Australia and getting opportunities. So that's when I really started to believe maybe I can do something with this.
Yeah, that's great. But your running career almost didn't get started, did it? Can you tell us about the Lonnie Loose Cannon?
The Lonnie Loose Cannon. Yeah, I was pretty like I mean I was pretty rowdy when I was younger, and I yeah got pretty heavily into drinking and different things, and I was still like hitting my running hard with that, but then also drinking pretty hard. And actually my first I broke a world record back in 2015 for the beer mile. So
Yeah, wow.
that kind of tells you what I was good at. But yeah, that was where you drink 4 beers and run 4 laps, and I did it in under 5 minutes. And
Wow.
yeah, like my life was going that way, but I had some events that kind of led to me going, I pretty much nearly lost my running and everything. But yeah, I turned it around because of that, and because of some things that God did in my life that really just, I guess, put me on the right path again. And
Yeah, that's
yeah,
that's great. Can you tell us, was there one specific thing that you would say was a turning point for you?
the big thing for me, so I was overseas. So I'd got an opportunity to go overseas and train with a 3-time Olympian at that stage, Jeff Risey, who was basically one of our best athletes ever. I think he was the second fastest 800-meter runner we'd had ever, and he was in the top 5 at least for 1500. And I went over and I trained with him. And my season would be you'd train extremely hard, and then you'd hit the drinks, and you'd get pissed for a good period of time, just to because that was your way to relax after training really hard. And anyway, I'd gone really well that season. I actually finished fourth at the Open Nationals as a 20-year-old. So it was a really successful season. That's what led to him inviting me over as a training partner. But then I thought my season was done. So I went and hit the drinks hard, partied, did all that, got it all out of my system. And probably within the space of a couple of weeks, I'd put on about 5 or 6 kilos.
Oh,
And
wow.
that's when I got the call from him to if I wanted to be his training partner and come overseas with him to Europe. So I couldn't say no to that. But he got a bit of a shock when he saw me for the first time and saw the state that I was in, thinking I was going to be a really high level athlete. And the big turning point for me. So I went back, got myself into really good shape again, did the best I could to be the best training partner I could for him while he was over there. And I actually went to a music festival called Tomorrowland, and it's probably, I think it's like one of the biggest music festivals in the world. I think they get close to 1 million people or even more than
No
that
way.
over the weekend. And anyway, obviously had a big day. Had a really good time at the festival, and I was on a bus on the way home. And while I was on the bus on the way home, I felt it was like this really weird sensation where it's just like I felt something just, it was almost like I just felt my body just go numb. And I didn't have any like proper sensation in my body, and I started feeling really, really weird. Anyway, that led to me going home, and I'm like, there's something seriously wrong with my
As
body
in
here.
to Australia?
I'm in Europe at this stage. This is in
Yep.
Belgium.
Yep.
And no, so I've caught the bus. This is just back to our apartment in Belgium. And
Yep.
one of my mates, he was back at the apartment. He didn't come with me to the music festival. And I'm just like, man, I feel weird. Like I need to call the ambulance here. So called the ambulance. They ran all the tests. They found nothing. Went back to bed. I was like, nah, I'm stuffed. Called the ambulance again. They did all the tests. Found absolutely nothing with me. And anyway, I ended up having this numb sensation in my body I was in Europe for another 2 weeks. So I was like traveling around Europe, and I was just like, it was like I felt disconnected from myself. That's the only way to put it. And it wasn't going away. And I went to the hospitals, like they ran all these blood tests and stuff to see if like I'd been spiked or anything like that. Cause I was only drinking. I didn't take any drugs at the festival. So there was nothing in my system like that. And anyway, I ended up getting back to Australia, and I was feeling just completely disconnected from myself. And I'd grown up my parents were Christians. I'd grown up, I'd been to church. I'd had little experiences with God and with stuff which I'd tried to kind of deny and put on the back burner. But as soon as stuff hit the fan, I guess I thought this is the only place where I know to go. So I ended up going to a Hillsong church in Sydney. So it's the city campus, and these guys prayed for me, and nothing happened at first. But while I was in the service, it was the first time that I'd ever been in a church, and I just put my hands up in worship and I just surrendered to God.
Yep.
And while I was in that surrender, it's almost like a movie type of thing, but I started to feel these feelings that I hadn't felt for what was on 4 to 6 weeks. I don't know the exact time frame, with like something just coming back to life in my body. And anyway, basically the sensation started to come back in my body, and I walked up. I told these guys had prayed for me, and I told them, I'm like, I don't know if I'm going crazy or what's happening here, but I'm feeling different. Like I'm feeling like that sensation, that emptiness that's been there, all of a sudden it's gone. And yeah, like I walked out of that place, and a couple of days later, I had a really powerful experience with the Holy Spirit, and even had some pretty weird stuff that happened. And yeah, I just got some prayer, and I had to have deliverance for some stuff, so that was pretty hectic. And yeah, I experienced the supernatural realm in a pretty powerful way, and realized that this is very real. And later on, found out that Tomorrowland, it's basically it's a satanic music festival that
Okay.
you'd never really know on the surface, but if you actually look into it, like there's a lot of pretty bad stuff that represents. And
Yeah,
even
that's
even a part of
crazy.
it even a part of it where they open this book called the 10 Good Commandments, and it's basically this ritual that they do each year where they ask you to basically let the spirits come within you. And I only saw that because I watched it on YouTube later. And there's actually videos of these things happening, and you're like, geez, like to think we live in this Western world, but there's such a spiritual realm and
Yeah.
different things out there. And that obviously made me go, this is real. God's real. I need to change my life and live for him the best I can, because it's not a joke, life. So
Yeah,
yeah.
that's a very interesting story, and that's great the way that you've come out of it. I guess that you almost felt, did you feel like you were almost born again, like you were kind of a new start going into running again, or did you lose your passion and motivation for running?
So it was funny because after all that happened, there was a period of time where my running just went backwards. And Like, I don't know what happened, but there was a real disconnection from my body. So whatever happened, whether it was spiritual or what, after I'd had this experience at church, I remember going for a run. It must have been a couple of days later, and my legs and my body weren't connected together. So it's like I was doing sessions, and my legs they wouldn't slow down. Like, it was very, very weird, but it was something that was affecting my running as well. And yeah, I was living in Sydney at the time, and then that basically I was just going terrible with my running, and basically got an opportunity to move to Melbourne back with the guy that I trained with overseas. And yeah, I just felt like that was right. And it was funny, as soon as I got out of Sydney, it was like I wasn't where I was. I was a fair way off in terms of, I remember running my first 1500 after all this had happened, and my PB at the time was 3:41. I ran a 4:06 1500. So
Okay.
25 seconds is a lot. Like, that's nearly 200 meters. So that's the kind of level I was back at.
Yeah, well, so then we go from there. You moved to Melbourne. Were you training full time? You were working. You were training. What was the kind of setup then?
Yeah, so with running, it's hard because there's not, unless you're on a contract, and to be on a contract, you've probably got to be one of the top 10 runners in the world almost to get those kind of opportunities. So I was doing it off my own back. So I was working as a lifeguard, studying full time, and then doing that as well. So that was basically the setup.
And were you still competing at a high level at that stage, or did it take you some time to get back to a higher level?
I was. So I think all of that happened in 2014. And then I had a year in 2015 where I was just basically back to square one. But I did like a 4-week altitude camp. And I remember the time I ran, I think it was like a 3:42 or something like that. And that feeling in myself that I was like, it's not a PB, but I'm back to almost where I've been. And it's pretty remarkable. Like, at that time, I was like, this is pretty remarkable that I'm getting a second shot at this, because I thought I'd thrown it all away. And
Yeah.
especially when I was coming back, I was like, there's no way. I didn't know what I'd done to my body, but
Yeah, there were no physical kind of impact on the body. No one could say, you've had this issue here with this particular limb or anything like that.
No, I went to heaps of doctors for it, and they just couldn't give me anything. They did all the tests and they're like, no, you're fine. But
yeah. Wow. So you spoke about your determination and everything right when you were a little kid, but I can't imagine the determination that you would have had internally here to think, I'm going to keep pushing through all this. And you mentioned that you got kind of close to your PB for 1500 again, and that would have been a great motivator for you to continue, I would say.
yeah, definitely. And then there was a pretty big God moment for me in 2016 at the Olympic trials. So it all happened in 2014, 2015, plateaued again, 2016. I looked like I was even going backwards even further. And I just thought, maybe this isn't what I'm supposed to do anymore. Maybe I've hit my limit. Do I want to give my life this? Like, it's a lot of work. I've moved my life. I moved away from my family. And it was the Australian Olympic trials in 2016. And I actually said a prayer to God. I said, God, if you want me to keep doing this, you've got to show me in this race. And I ran the 3:44 or something that year. But then this other year, I wasn't even getting in the big races anymore. Like, I wouldn't even get in any of the major races. And it came to the last race of the year, and I was basically going to go, if I run bad at this, I was going to leave the sport. And I made the final by the last place. I think I was the last person that qualified into the final.
Yep.
And I don't know how, but in the final, I pulled out this crazy run, ended up running a PB, finished 5th or 6th. And I really felt like that was confirmation from God that it's like, press on, keep going.
Yeah.
You
Keep pressing
can do
towards
this.
the goal.
And that was for me. That moment in 2016 was when I really thought, no, God's in this. Like, he's got a reason for this. I'm just going to see how far I can take it and just trust.
Yeah, that's fantastic. You missed the Olympics there, but obviously kept training, working hard.
Yeah.
What would a typical training week look like for you? You said you were working, you've been studying while you're running as well, but what sort of commitment would running take for you?
Yeah, so it's pretty intense at the moment. So I'm working 4 days a week. So I work from home. So example, like my Monday, I usually do a run in the morning. So it might be, 12, either 12 to 13 Ks in the morning. And then I get a 30-minute lunch break at work. So I work in a call center from home. So it's like basically have my last call, get into my running gear, time it so I'm like logging out, I'm ready to go, run out the door. I usually do 5 to 6 Ks
Wow.
during my lunch break. And then after work, I will do a gym session and a swim. So I'm usually not home until about 9 o'clock those nights. I repeat that pretty much Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And then Tuesday and Saturday are my session days. So that will be like some type of session in the morning. So it's usually about total distance might be about 18 to 20K. And then same again, I'll do the Tuesday, I've got a half day. So I'll do a run after work at 5. Thursday, I'll do the same with the lunch break jog. And then, Saturday's obviously day off. So you just do and then Thursday's a long run. So that's anywhere from about 24K to 30K that I'll do there. And then, yeah, I take Sundays off. So I felt like that was something from God as well that I got, which was very different because for most runners, Sunday's the big mileage day where they do their long run.
Yep.
But when I had a few injuries and stuff like that, I thought, you know what, like God says about having a day off a week. For me, I'm not religious about the day or anything like that, but Sunday, I think for me is the best day.
Yep.
So I decided I'm going to take that day off, give myself a day of rest. And interestingly, my performance has gone a long way forward since I started doing that as well. So
That's great.
yeah.
Yeah, so we were in 2016, 2018 Com Games trials I think it was at the Gold Coast.
Yeah.
You ran a great race in the final again, but just missed a medal.
Yeah.
How did that? Was that another big setback, or it just made you more determined?
It made me more determined, but yeah, that was a hard one because one of my dreams was always to make a home Commonwealth Games, and I went into that race knowing that I had a B qualifier for it, and I went into that race knowing that I had to win to make it. And if you watch that race, 150 to go, I hit the lead, and then the last 50 meters, I just died badly. And if I had got third, there still might have been a chance I got selected, but because I got fourth, there was no chance I was going to get selected. So, but once again, it was like the previous year so after I had that big moment where it's like, I know God's doing this, I actually got a stress fracture in my back, in my sacrum.
Okay.
So I missed most of 2017. So I went from missing nearly the whole 2017 to having that back injury, starting again and going, and that's when I made the decision. I'm going to have Sunday off. I'm going to do things a bit more my way. And that led to me getting to those Com Games, having a dream of it, but falling so short. But at the same time, if I had gone back to 6 months earlier thinking, could I make it? It was almost an impossible dream. So to actually get that close was pretty special as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. Off the back of an injury, which you mentioned, and then you had moving forward a few years, you had some major health setbacks in 2021 as well, didn't you?
Yeah, so 2021 to 2020 was a horrible year for me. It was probably the worst year of my life. My wife left me. So I was like, that was probably the hardest thing I ever went through with that. And then straight off that, I had that back injury I had in 2017. I got that again. And then I couldn't, like, there was a time there in 2020 where it was COVID time. All you could do was, I was in Melbourne, all you could do was go for like 30 to 60 minutes worth of exercise. And I couldn't even go for a walk without being in pain. And here you are, like,
yeah,
previous year you've won national titles in certain races, and all of a sudden it's like you're going for a walk. My life was right at the bottom. And then I basically, like, at crazy like bringing this all up with you because you're like, geez, there's been a few different things. It's a bit of
Yeah,
a funny story, but yeah,
your
there's been a
story
lot.
is remarkable. Honestly,
Yeah,
I can't believe the challenges you've overcome. It's so inspiring.
yeah, but got through that, and then I decided to move back to Tassie because I just was a bit sick of Melbourne after COVID, and I wanted to be back with family, so I made the move back to Tassie, and started going really well. Like I'd only started training in November, got back to a really good level. I got back to national, so 2020 I would have missed the whole nationals, and what did I do? I finished sixth at nationals, which was pretty. I was pretty happy with that. Off no preseason, nothing, and I was like, something in my mind had definitely changed because I'm like, for myself to be able to go from getting fit that quickly, I was like, something mentally had really shifted for me. And anyway, come off that, and then I was a little bit sick after it all, and I was out on a run with one of my friends one day, and obviously Tokyo Olympics was in 2021, so I was still trying to make that because I'd only been training for a certain amount of time. I'm like, if I get the right prep here, I think this is possible. And out on a run, and I'd been getting some headaches before, but while I was out on the run one day, my arm actually went limp. So, and my hands basically went as if there was nothing, like
Like dead, like they were just,
like dead. Yep,
yeah.
completely dead. And I was at the traffic lights, and my mate's like, "You all right?" And I was like, I stupidly was like, "Yeah, I think I'm all right." And he ran off anyway. But I'm like there standing there, and I'm like, this is like bad. Luckily, so there was a doctor's surgery close to where I was, and they do urgent care type of thing. So I ran myself in there. And they checked me all out. They ended up sending me home, and I got home to my mum. I couldn't pick up my toothpaste, couldn't pick up my toothbrush, couldn't pick anything up with my right hand, and my mouth was tingling. And I
Wow.
was like, you're not right here. So we went straight up to the emergency, and they ended up scanning my brain, and there was a full blood clot. I think it was on the left side of my brain. Um, and here I was, weeks, like days before, I was getting these headaches, and I was doing these crazy sessions because I'm still trying to make the Olympics. And yeah, I had this really, I think it was called sinus venous thrombosis. So I think it affects probably 3 in a million people. Like it's very, very
Wow.
rare. And yeah, like I think there's a high like fatality rate with it as well. So I was really lucky with that. And anyway, luckily they found it because basically all they needed to do was get me on the blood thinners and thin the clot out, and there wasn't any surgeries or anything like that I had to go through. But it basically, once again, it was like I needed to take things really easy for a while.
Yeah.
Had to get on blood thinning medication, find out I was on that for the rest of my life. So I didn't know what that would look like in terms of my running either. So yeah, so that was pretty crazy to go through that
Yeah, you've
in
certainly been
2021.
through a lot, that's for sure.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
maybe a
it's been
miracle that you're still running at all. And you've
and
continued running 2022. And what a year this year has been for you. Some
yeah,
absolutely phenomenal results.
yeah. No, it's been awesome, Jason. Like, I mean, I came out of that, things turned around, and I guess you go through this so many times. It's almost like you know what to do. And it's like you've got to go from
Yeah,
scratch, but my thing for me has always been you've got to create like a routine in your life that's world class. And if I want to be an Olympian, it's like I've got to train like an Olympian now, not when I get there. So it's
that's
like
good.
for years and years I've been developing these habits and these, I guess you call rituals, in terms of the way I plan my day and do my training and everything like that. And now you have these setbacks. It's like I just go back to what I do again, and it's like, what do I have to do on a daily basis? How do I build up? And I've just done that once again, and yeah, that's led to some really big results this year, which has been really cool to
Yeah,
experience.
PB's in the 1500 of 3 minutes 37. So
Yep,
smash that time, 5,000 meters, 13:34,
yep,
and 10K 28:56. And that was a significant chunk off your PB, wasn't it?
yeah. So that was pretty special. I won the Launceston 10. That was early this year, and that was a race I grew up with and was really special to me. And I think before the race, what did I run before the race? I think it was like 29:17, but that was 2021 as well. Before that, it was 29:52. So within that year, I
Yeah.
went from 29:52 to 28:49. So
Yeah,
it
it's
was, yeah,
huge. So some amazing results, really inspirational how you've bounced back from all those setbacks there. And you've mentioned going for the Com Games, mentioned going for the Tokyo Olympics last year. Obviously, still have aspirations. That's why you're still working hard and training.
yeah, yeah, definitely. And it's like I've always felt like God's kind of given me just these little glimpses of things to keep going. And it's really cool now because it's like obviously been through all these challenges, and I'm sure there'll be more to come. Like it's not like you just expect there'll be nothing there, but to actually come back and go, yeah, God, there's a reason that you've done this, and now it gives you a bit of a story, and it gives you things that you go, he's been there all along, and even the fact that he's able to restore you from some of those stuff when you're so far down. So
That's great. So we need to touch on something else. Another record that you hold, I mentioned in the introduction, was the
yeah,
parkrun record. So
yeah,
there's hundreds of thousands. I could name probably 100 people that I know who do parkrun and participate, and no one in Australia has ever ran it faster than you.
yeah. So that was a bit of a stuff up from me that I actually ended up getting the record. So I was supposed to do national cross country, and I'd freshened up all week for national cross country, and it was in Adelaide. And I was like looking forward to this direct flight to Adelaide. And it's funny because I've been talking to a guy before, and he was talking about this big journey he's doing to Adelaide from Launceston. And I'm like there getting ready for my flight night before. Check the flight. Somehow I've booked Melbourne to
Oh, no
Adelaide,
way.
Adelaide to Melbourne.
Oh my goodness.
Anyway, I was like, oh, I'll have a look at the flights. And I looked at the flights, and it was just like astronomical to get to. It was going to cost me like I think $1,500 or something to get there. And I was just like, I just can't. The race was not that it's all about money, but the race to win was about $2,000-3,000. The course was super muddy. I was like, I'm not suited to this. I'm not going to worry about it. So I messaged my mates a couple of days before, and I said, why don't we just have a crack at the Parkrun Australia record? So I was like, it'd be pretty cool to be the first person to break 14 minutes for Parkrun in Australia. Um, so yeah, so we got a group of guys together and went down there, and I had one of my buddies pace me out to 600. And then I had another mate on a bike that paced me around to basically 4K, and then my other mate jumped back in and did the last K with me, and then crossed the line. And I was thinking maybe I might be able to break 14, but I was pretty stoked when I got 13:53 because that was pretty significant. And then I found out I was only 5 seconds off the global record as well. So I was like,
Yeah, what do you do there? Is that become a target, or are you track aspirations kind of the sole focus?
no, it is a target. Like it's something I want to do now. So I think it'll be cool to have a crack. Like obviously parkrun's about individual pursuits, and it's never should be about elites or anything like that. But for me, I feel like I'm part of that journey because it's just a normal person just trying to get better every
That's
day,
right.
and that's led to me going from you know, but not really struggling probably to break 15 minutes to all of a sudden I'm doing 13:53. And I coach a lot of athletes as well in running, and I find it's exactly the same for elites as what it is for your everyday runner. It's all about just getting that little bit better every day and working on yourself, working on your mind, and just
Yeah.
it's very the thing I like about it's simple, and
Yep.
yeah, it's all the same for everyone. So
Anyone can run. If we got legs,
and
we can run. So
yeah,
yeah, I guess that there'll probably be a lot of people who do parkrun, a lot of park runners listening to the podcast. What would be one tip? I know that you could probably go on for a while here, but just
yeah,
one simple tip for people who want to improve on their best time or want to run a PB week after week and continue to improve.
yes, I think um, for me it's like incremental progression. So it's finding a routine that works. Finding a routine that works for your life, and then it's like how do you slowly build on that. And what I'd recommend for most people just starting out, maybe like 3 days a week, have like an easy run that might be like 30 minutes, have a training, like a session. So whether it's an interval session, a fartlek session, if you need to look it up online, any of these sessions, and you'll find different ones that you can do. And then have a long run once a week and just work on building those out week in, week out. You know, doesn't have to be much. It can be 1-2%, and then give yourself rest as well. So every 4 weeks, just offload it. But yeah, I think I'm a big believer in the process, and it's like if you do the process and do the hard work, the results will take care of themselves.
Yeah, that's great. And I know that you are a professional running coach, so we do appreciate those free tips for the Press Toward the Goal podcast.
Yeah, no, of course.
That leads nicely into some listener questions that I've got for you. I've got a good friend of mine, Zach, who goes by the handle Peace Begins on Your Plate, who says, "Hi, James, epic park run time. I'm a passionate recreational runner and would love to hear what weekly run volume you'd average, and including a peak volume phase if you do that."
Actually, I think I saw Zach on Instagram. I saw that name pop up. My volume at the moment, so I'm probably anywhere between 110 to, I haven't hit a 130 week in my block so far, but like mid 120s, and I'm looking at building that out. But like I said before, it's like just about that incremental progression into my training cycle. So I'm always trying to build on something. And that's where I feel right now. Like it's my last 4 weeks have been my strongest 4 weeks, my 4 weeks before that, and my 4 weeks before that. And I've always been building, and I found that kind of mindset, like even if you get injured, it's like you start again and you build from the platform that you're on, and then you just build again. And just the way that you can move yourself forward, both physically and mentally, it's huge, because it's like if your body's moving forward and you got that confidence that you're moving forward with that, it's like your mind will as well, and you'll develop that confidence, and you'll go into these races going, I'm the most prepared I could possibly be for right now. So yeah, that's probably the volume and everything with it.
Perfect. He did have a part two to that question. Do you heart rate train or train by pace and or perceived exertion, RPE? I don't know what that means, but I'm sure you do.
Yeah, so I train more by feel. So I'm massive for running off feel, because I think heart rate can be so variable for different people, and especially when you're racing, it's like you need to have so much awareness of your own body, and you've got to know when's too much and when's too little. And I think sometimes when you're focusing too much on the data and what your heart rate's saying and everything like that, I think you can just get caught up on trusting a watch rather than trusting yourself.
Yeah.
So I've got a wrist heart rate watch, but I don't even think it's accurate. So I don't worry about that. But then there's definitely good points to going with your heart rate as well. Just for me, it's like that's how I think I run best, just based on feel, and I found the training benefits are really great as well. So
yep. Got a question from Jocko on Instagram. Will Carlton win the flag in 2023 or 2024?
That's the one question I saw. So I think probably, if we're a chance, 2024. So I think we probably need another rebuild year. But I did see Cripper was back at training early. So you know, and one of my old coaches, Andrew Russell, he's actually head of like the high performance at Carlton, and he's very, very switched on with that stuff, and seems like Vossi's really got a good head on his shoulders with the coaching, and he's come a long way since he was coaching Brisbane. So Who knows? Like, we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Well, I suppose that's kind of an out for you. If anyone's questioning you changing allegiance, you could say you just followed Vossi. So
exactly. yeah, there'll probably be a few Queensland.
Last question.
Listeners.
Last question from listeners was from Knit Me Together on Instagram. And she asks, how do you balance the intense needs of training and striving to become better as an athlete with the biblical call to focus on things above and not things on earth?
Ooh, what a question.
It's intense, yeah.
That is intense. In terms of that question, so like it's obviously a journey, because it's like you've got that balance. But I've always felt called to do running, even since I've had these
Health struggles and incidents and things.
health struggles. Yeah, I've always felt like God's kind of drawn me back into it, and it's something that He wants to do with my life. And I guess it's similar to that scripture about the talents. It's like, if God gives you a talent, you've got to invest that as much as you can.
Yeah.
And I don't think this is something that God's wanted me to do, where I'm doing it half-hearted. Like, I've really felt like He's called me to do it at a high level. But then there's obviously that importance for me, of just keeping that intimacy with God. I think if you've got that relationship with God and He's there with you, regardless of if you're doing stuff at a really high level or intense, it's always coming back to Him, and He'll be filling you out. Like, He'll be filling you up, and it will make it so much easier in that struggle. And it's like, I know God's helped me along the journey, and He's been the one that's given me peace. And the last couple of years, to be honest, like, it's been easier than it's ever been. Like, the last year, it's been easier than it's ever been, because it's just like, I know what to do. I feel like God's really on this, and I feel like He's really blessing it right now, which is nice. And it's nice to get that. But at the end of the day, records, everything like that, it never fills you up, and it's never going to lead to anything that fulfills you. Like, there's nothing better than.
It's not your identity.
It's not, no. And I know like, I've had to give it up a lot of times. Like, that's the other thing. It's like, when I had my back injury and stuff like that, I've had to say to God, Lord, if you don't want me to do this, I'll stop.
Yep.
The thing is every time I've done that, it's like He's given me another opportunity to do it and push through. And I think that's important too. Like, just realizing that at any time He can take it away, and it's not who you are. But yeah, it's definitely a journey.
Yeah, that's brilliant. So we've really gotten to know you a bit, I think, during our conversation, and I appreciate your openness, your honesty, your authenticity. But one question that I ask everybody at the end of a podcast is, how do they want to be remembered? So how does James Hansen want to be remembered?
That's another deep question that I haven't really thought about too much. But yeah, I think I would like to be remembered as someone that had a strong relationship with God. Like, I would like to be someone that's not just James Hansen, the runner, but James Hansen, who is known for my faith as well, but not in like he's a weirdo type of way, like in a way where it's like, geez, I remember a guy said to me one time, he's like, things just seem to always work out for you. And I always knew when he said that, I was like, it's because of God that things have worked out for me. It's because of, and I want people to look at my life and go, geez, like, with all this stuff, things just seem to work out with Him, and not to see it because of my strengths or anything like that, but to see it because God's shining on the inside, and He's really blessed what I've done, and He's the one that's given me this path. And yes, I'd love for people to see that and remember me for my faith more than probably anything. So
yeah, that's fantastic. Well, you've been a real inspiration talking to you. I've been really inspired, really challenged the way you've pushed through adversity, and you're a great role model for young people who want to run. Obviously, you've overcome a lot, and I'm sure there'll be people who facing challenges themselves. They can look to you. I want to obviously see you fulfill your dreams, and we will be cheering you on, that's for sure, and your ambitions to go to world championships and Olympics and that sort of thing. And if there's any sponsors out there who want to get behind you or anything, I'd encourage you to get in touch with James and support him. He'd be a great ambassador. How can people follow your journey?
Yeah, so thanks for that, Jason. But yeah, mostly through probably Instagram. I post a lot of my races and different things through there. So yeah, it's my hashtag. You'll probably put it up, but it's James_Hansen with an EN. And yeah, just reach out. Like, I love getting messages from people, or if you got any other questions that you want to talk about as well, just on Instagram, just slide into the DMs and we'll have a chat. So yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, I've loved having a chat with you, James. It's been great to hear your story. Been really inspired, like I've already said. Thanks for coming on the Press Toward the Goal podcast.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, Jason.